V and X made their way to an acquaintance in an expensive restaurant called the Jade Lantern, looking for a paid insider. The man in question, Greg Miles, was a detective who was paid by A to handle delicate information and keep the police off their trail. V and X walked into the room and stared at the acquaintance and smiled warmly.
Good evening, Greg. Anything new for us? New leads? Anything?
Greg raised his head and looked into V's eyes calmly. Then, sudden realization struck at who he was looking at.
Seriously, you haven't talked to us in a few months. Give us an update.
Greg looked up to X and shook his head, then looked down to a glass of water that was before him. Taking a drink, he began to speak.
Look, we haven't had any leads on who's behind the killings. We just know that the first responder is always this chief named Ryan something or other.
Greg, we don't pay you to give us incomplete info.
You pay me to stay quiet.
Greg, we don't pay you to stay quiet. We have your family for that.
X stands up dominantly and stares at the informant, who immediately submits in fear, no longer making eye contact with him.
You want to play superior informant? We pay you to be generous. Don't try to act all high and mighty. Remember, we can destroy you in seconds. Perhaps we should take your family on a little road trip.
Greg was shaking a bit, clenching his knife in his palm before the waiter quickly walks over.
Is everything okay, sir?
We were just leaving. Right, X?
Right.
V and X both put 40 on the table, looking into Greg's eyes, staring daggers into his confidence.
Dinner is on us.
All right, have a good day, gentlemen.
The waiter spoke before taking the money and walking away from the three, leaving Greg in the clutches of X and V.
Come on, you two. I was just being honest. I don't know who this guy is. Please leave my family out of this.
We've given you plenty of cash. Isn't $250,000 enough for you? All we ask is for you to inform us of his victim's home, or better yet, grant us entrance.
Greg sat looking at the glass of water before him, fear evident within him as X and V loomed over like two bloodthirsty demons.
Look, either you get us the access cards to provide us permission to see the crime itself, or we can take you on a nice little vacation, and you never see your family again. It's up to you. You have 24 hours to make your choice.
X and V smiled, the two killers leaving Greg to stare worriedly at the table. Greg looked at the $80 left as a tip and sighed, grabbing his phone. He stared at V's contact information, and against his free will, he made the call.
I'll give you the cards. Just, please, leave my family alone.
V smiled, holding his phone to his ear, then looked at X as he hung up.
Looks like the little fish you took for bait. I think it's time to get to work.
V and X walked to the front door of the warehouse and looked at Jay, who was sitting in the lab, messing with some sort of liquid and a powder, combining each to create a bubbling reaction that resulted in a crystalline-looking material.
I made a new product, V. It's kind of like a drug. I'm hoping it will create an immediate addiction. I want to see how well it works. You have some test subjects downstairs, don't you?
V smiled and walked into the room where Jay was working on the product, then nodded as he placed his gas mask on, examining the drug.
I do have some test subjects you could play with. They aren't really mine. They belong to D&K, but please tell me more about this wonderful drug you have made.
I call it CA-14. I want to mass produce it throughout the city, but I will need authorized permission from A. The idea is to mass produce it as it's very cheap to make, and we could possibly gather some extra cash in the process.
Jay smiled, handing a kilo over to V in a specially wrapped and marked package.
Nice. I'll pass this over to K&D. We'll definitely have friends to test these kind of things.
Jay nodded and went back to her station and began prepping the area for A's inspection.
I found something amazing. Or at least I think it is.
Kay danced around Dee, who was fighting with a torture patient.
God damn it, you little shit! Stay still! I'm trying to shoot you!
Dee fired another bullet, missing the person on purpose, then let out a laugh as the man pissed himself. V knocked on the door before opening it, staring at the man in the chair.
D, stop playing with him. Need him to be cooperative. If you keep missing, you might accidentally hit him.
Dee stopped laughing and stared at the gun in his hand for a moment, then turned to V. Dee placed a finger on the trigger, while still aiming at the man in the chair.
Well, if you're so good at torture, why don't you make the scumbag talk? It's not like your detective will ever be useful.
V looked at Dee and sighed. V flipped Dee off before turning to Kay. Just before he spoke, Dee fired a bullet through the man's skull, then turned back to V with a smile.
Okay, we have something for you to test out on patients. It's called CA14. Find out how well this is. Test it out. If it works, please tell me as soon as possible. Then we can have the soldiers sell it. I'll have JD brief him on this job. If all goes well, I want money to start rolling in, as soon as the product is approved.
Kay looked at the strange product, and turned to look at the dead man tied up in the chair. A smile appeared on her face, as an idea popped into her head.
Hey, Dee. Come here, I have an idea. Go get another prisoner. We can have fun with another one, right?
Dee smiled, placing the gun down while nodding. He ran to the cellar, and came back with a man who looked to be middle-aged, and quite exhausted as well.
What's the idea? You're not gonna take my fun away, are you? F has the habit of stealing my job. I don't want you to start doing it.
Dee said with a smile, as he unlocked the corpse, letting it fall to the floor. Moments later, he locked the new man into the chair. Kay smiled brightly, then turned to Dee holding a package with the mark of Alpha K on it.
No. I'm ready to force this new substance into that man's system. Although not too much. The more he takes, the higher chance it could put our operation at risk. Don't go overboard. Just a test, all right?
V watched as Kay handed Dee the new drug.
Oh, a new plaything. I am gonna have so much fun with this guy.
Dee smiled and looked over to him, then stared at Kay and V as he forced the man's mouth open with fishing hooks tied to levers.
Apologies. This might hurt quite a bit, but here, have a free sample.
Jesus Christ, why do I bother with him?
Dee shouted, dropping a chunk of the drug into his throat.
Should I double? Fuck it, I'll double.
Dee smiled and placed the powder into water, then forced the drug into the man's main artery on his arm. The man convulsed and shook as he began to get hit by the high. His pupils dilated 4 times their normal size. He choked out a groan, then turned to the drug and began fighting, trying to take it away from Dee.
Whoa, instantly hooked onto this. Whatever Jay did, it worked.
V laughed and walked up to the drugged man and looked to D and K.
Both of you, test for pain tolerance. I want to see if we can make this into something for our soldiers. We'll have to clear it with G.
D looked at V happily, while K watched in a much more concerned state, but still excited to see the experiment going.
I don't believe the substance will numb the pain too much. In fact, I believe that it might heighten the pain.
Oh, let me test! Let me test!
D grabbed wire cutters and smiled, staring at the man who was sitting in the chair. He looked at the man's hand, and at the pinky. D laughed and stared into the man's eyes as blood seeped from the hand's missing pinky.
How many fingers can you lose before you pass out or break the effect of the drug?
D took the cutters again, looking at his toes and the remaining 4 fingers. Deciding on his hand, he again took another finger. The man screamed, reeling back in agony, but after a few seconds, he again began reaching for the bag.
Fucking hell, this drug is fucking addicting. Well done, Jay. It's like you created a real fucking zombie.
Dee chuckled, walking away from the man to the back room. Kay stood, watching the man who was still too determined on getting the drugs to realize his situation. After a few moments, Dee had returned. The sadistic killer walked back from the room he had entered, with a devious grin contouring on his face. Dee had held a handsaw in his dominant hand and evil intentions in the other.
It's my turn, Dee. Stop hogging the toys.
Kay smiled, taking the saw from him and latching it to his forearm, turning it on, letting it hover just over the arm. Finally, Kay, with an evil grin, began pressing the saw slowly through the man's arm. The man, finally realizing what was going on, began screaming as his arm was penetrated by the saw. As the bones began breaking under the sharp saw, he turned to look at what was happening. As the saw made its way through the ulna, he screamed, watching his arm getting ripped into two separate halves. Kay stopped pressing it through his arm for a moment, turning up the speed, then laughed hysterically as she forced the saw through the man's radius. The excruciating pain rendered effective enough to completely break the hide he was under. As it finally ripped through the final bit of skin, he lashed his arm away. The blood began draining quickly as he screamed, looking at his forearm, which was locked into the chair, while his elbow moved freely on its own. As he looked at his arm, and then to his dismembered fingers that lined the floor, he began sobbing, and stared into V's eyes, pleading for some sort of assistance. V stared coldly back at him.
Get it all clean. Kill this man. We have no use for him anymore. You have to tell Jay about this find, and the amount of pain they can handle. Seems like the drug is a new kind of Superman drug.
I'll clean it up, Kay. Go clean the tools. We'll decide how to kill him when we're done. I'll begin cauterizing the wound and then get him into the lockdown.
Dee grabbed the man's arm and a torch, then began to cauterize the wound. V watched with a smirk, turning and then heading towards the laboratory to tell Jay about the good news of her drug.
Jay, there is good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first?
Jay looked up from her cleaning and chuckled sweetly.
V, I want bad news, then good.
Well, the bad news is the product does have a pain tolerance.
And the good news.
The product elicits an immediate addiction. However, we don't know the effects of a prolonged time without the drug. We have nothing to test it on, unfortunately.
Well, I have a rat we can try it on, however. I don't know if the rat will be able to survive long.
V looked at the rat in its cage across the room.
Are you fond of the rat?
No, I am not. It is meant for experiments just like any other.
Alright, let's give it a third dose. See if that will replicate the effects of the dosage they gave to the guy downstairs.
Jay grabbed a small spoon and smiled, taking it to the rat. The rat sniffed the spoon questioningly, then ate the drug from the spoon. Its eyes began to dilate, and it bit the spoon, trying to rip it from Jay's grasp.
We will give it 24 hours before its next dose. Now, V, I believe it's time for you to go tell A about CA-14.
What? Why me? You made the damn drug?
Jay, unamused from the lack of cooperation, shakes her head while prying the spoon out of the cage. The rat was now biting at the bars and shaking the cage.
Because I have to test it out more. The substance is barely controlled, and it will be a while until it is.
Jay moved a pinch of the powder into a test tube with strange liquids, putting the top on it before she shook it.
Whatever. But if it goes bad, it's on your head. And I'm not talking about landing on A's hit list.
Jay stares up at V while rolling her eyes. She then looked down at the rat and back to the test tube. She put back on her gas mask before replying.
You aren't already on it? Well, that's surprising.
Well, it's too bad that I'm busy. I don't really want to do it.
The eccentric scientist's eyes traced to meet V's, as a glint of triumph lit up in her gaze. She replied in a tart manner.
You do want access to this lab, right? Come on, V. Think of all the poisons you wouldn't be able to touch. All the victims you couldn't torture then.
The mad toxicologist remains relatively silent and motionless, except for the subtle twitching of his eye. V finally broke his silence.
Fine. Just give me the briefcase. I guess you owe me. Apparently.
Jay's eyes lit up and her grin widened, handing over the briefcase to V in a deliberate manner. The toxicologist of questionable sanity reluctantly took the briefcase from her grasp, replying in a nonchalant manner.
Just so you know, I'm doing this for myself. And my poisons.
V turns and saunters off into the main foyer, leaving Jay to return back to her previous work. Reaching A's office, the toxicologist moves his hand over a space on a set of double doors, and with a beep, the doors open.
A, I've received a vial and a report from Jay.
With a backhanded wave, the meticulous leader motions V to enter and come forward to his desk. A menacingly turns around in his chair, with a revolver held in his right hand. He met eyes with the toxicologist and greeted him with a curt nod. V returns the gesture, placing the briefcase on A's desk. Without waiting for the dismissal, V sauntered back out of the office doors, as he had already completed his task.
I've just about given up at this point. Time to rein him in.
A turns his attention to the briefcase, opening it to reveal the valuable contents within. The crystalline material, which was once clear, now held tints of blue. Lifting it out of the briefcase to get a better look, the light shined against the material, the tints of blue becoming more vibrant, almost providing a glow of its own.
You've outdone yourself once again, Jay. I applaud you.
The now giddy A chuckled out as he spun the vial. The thoughts of future plans clouded his devious mind.
Yeah.
N and F slumped into the car's seats. Scouting prey was never the fun part of the job. Long hours in the strenuous heat, in a small space that the two people had to share, would take a toll on anyone's tired minds. N reaches for her coffee, taking a long sip, as she stared directly at the front door of the townhouse.
Do you really need to sip that loud in? Any louder and you sound like a tank rolling down the bloody street!
Oh, fuck off, F. It's not like your crutches could be any louder! What I would do for a whole plate of nachos right now.
Oh, shut up! It's 8:30. The target's taking their daughter to school.
The red-headed girl adjusted her seat to gaze over F's shoulder. She wasn't interested in what was happening, but more of the thrill of getting caught. The house is boarded off by an 8-foot concrete wall, draped in white paint, chipped off little by little by the harsh weather. The scout car was positioned in a way where they can see the main guard gate, the front door, and the cars along with their license plate numbers. Not one thing on the house omitted poverty.
Jiminy Christmas! This guy doesn't have a modest bone in his whole damn body!
If you want, I could break a few. Maybe the modest thing is hiding inside his plated gold bones.
Oh, so it is true. When you're bored, all you can think about is violence. Nice.
Not all the time. Sometimes I think about how much of a nerd you are.
The tech-savvy killer grasped and slapped N's shoulder. It was obvious these two were close. They practically grew together. F and N joined Alpha K at practically the same time. It was a habit for the two to roughhouse and tease each other.
I'm not a nerd! I'm simply the most intelligent out of the two of us.
Now who's the one without a modest bone in their body?
Oh, shut up! Oh, great. Look what you've done. You completely distracted us from the objective, and now he's leaving!
Nah, we figured out the time he takes his daughter to work.
Ed notes down on a yellow piece of scratch paper that they have camped out for exactly 24 hours, as the man was targeted as a dirty cop. There was a hefty price for his head in a fellow gang leader's hands. His name, Sebastian Lee Winter, as well as an art piece in his house worth over $3 million.
So, we have down at 4 p.m. Mrs. Winter goes to her book club sessions while Mr. Winter goes to work. Both come back around 6, so we have that short time to get in and out for the painting. If the grandma drops off the little girl, then we have till 5:30. Then we can send X and G over for the dirtiest part.
That's a risky venture. Are you sure M has that?
Not sure. But if A trusts him to do this, then I guess we have to too. We could give him a call.
Everyone on the ground now!
M raised the gun in the air and blew bullets into the roof. The distinct sound of bullet casings making headway into the room's soundscape as they fall to the ground, each with their own clang to scare everyone down onto the floor. His team of 3 gathered around the hostages. The manager was seen and tied after that same manager had hit the silent alarm, alerting the police to the robbery.
Alright, no funny business. And everyone will get to go home at the end of the day. All we want is the money. Try anything and we won't hesitate to... Fuck. Hold on, everyone. I gotta take this. Where's it, Anne? This really isn't the best time.
Doesn't matter. It's time to prove yourself. Come to the address I've sent to your phone. 15 minutes or less. Otherwise, you'll fail.
Wait, but...
M stood in silence, staring at all the tied-up hostages, hearing the sirens grow closer. The new-blooded thief groaned, and began trying to bark orders, but too embarrassed on how the heist turned out.
Just untie the hostages and go out the back. Meet up at the rendezvous point.
Doing as they were told with a confused murmuring coming from both the hostages and the team, letting the hostages free. The team escaping out the back and ran to the meetup spot. M explained the situation as his team shook their head and drove away without him. He cursed under his breath before sprinting away from the scene, ditching his mask in the nearest trash can. M shows up in the nick of time. N got out of the car, storming over to him, pulling him into the red Honda hidden out of sight.
You sure took your time.
What can I say? I was in the middle of something, you know.
I don't care!
The red-headed girl practically burns a hole into M's eyes with a glare to rival that of the sun. M simply raises an eyebrow at the girl's concerns.
Why am I here again? You wanted me to break into this house?
Correct. There is something in there that we want you to commandeer for us. Something very expensive. I mean important.
The new-blooded thief traces his attention to the tech-savvy killer, following along to his every stuttered word.
We figured you could use the challenge. You are new to this whole Alpha K thing, after all.
Now get your butt ready, 'cause in no 2 hours, you'll be breaking and entering.
M sighed, irritated that he had lost 6 months of work for a mere burglary, but understanding the heat of the situation. Alpha K is the strongest gang in Vancouver. Denying them is like setting up your own funeral. The Canadian stereotype stops at Alpha K, them all being bloodthirsty killers that could eat your soul with just a dirty glance. M shivered even being a 6'2" tall man. He felt no more than 3 feet tall in the presence of Alpha K.
Yes, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Just give me the details. Why am I stealing?
In the master bedroom, there's a painting worth all of our weights in gold, sitting there, just right for the taking. Thing is, there are about a dozen guards, as well as a shift change at 3:30. Sharp. Moving in quickly will definitely get you...
Say no more. The job is as good as done. You will have your painting.
Oh! Also, this target is high risk to our broad operation, so make it look like a robbery. We want you to distract them from any of the potential documents that may go missing.
Taking in all the information had caused M a pounding headache. Rubbing the bridge of his nose, he would let out an overwhelmingly tired sigh. He tried to pry more information out of N, but to no extent would N share any more about the operation.
That's need-to-know information, rookie. Now, prepare for infiltration.
Back at the agency, Greg Miles opens up the classified document on the gang, taking the current speculation of an attack on a federal agent, the investigator Sebastian Lee Winter. Greg takes the file quickly, placing it in his briefcase. He had quickly exited the data room. Casually making his way to the break room, he pulled out a bag from under his coat, dumping it out on the table. 2 tacos wrapped in tinfoil came sprawling out. The shells were puffy and soft, feeling like he was biting into a cloud. He let out a satisfied moan, feeling his mouth salivate at the familiar flavors.
Just like Grandma used to make. Thank the Lord up in heaven for leaving me the recipe in her will.
The tired detective's phone began to ring. Feeling the buzz in his pocket, Greg takes out his phone to see who was calling. To his misfortune, it was the gas devil, V. recalling about the access cards he had previously asked for. To V's request, he put his number under Grandma to hide his identity.
Grandma, it's a pleasure hearing from you again.
You know, when I told you to call me that when you called, I didn't expect you to actually do it.
I'm just respecting my elders, Mimi.
Cut the shit wherever badgers, Greg.
Oh, now. Let's calm down, Mimi. I've got them right here with me.
Greg takes his time in sending the information to them. Being stuck in the superior informant, he smirked to himself, feeling this new, powerful, yet fleeting feeling.
You have till tomorrow afternoon, Greg. Enough kidding around. You're not a toy for you to play around with. You're just a tool.
Greg's feeling was, in fact, fleeting. The tower detective felt his grin sharpen as his face contorted into a frown. Greg sat in silence for a few moments after.
I'll take that silence as affirmation. Tomorrow. Afternoon, Greg.
So, how is our little fishy friend handling himself?
He was flopping around, acting confident, but I reminded him of his worth. Food for bears. All surveys say.
Alright, I'm going in. Wish me luck, you two.
The new-blooded thief had entered into the house through a cracked window into a girl's bedroom after evading 3 guards. M takes his time to analyze his surroundings before almost having a heart attack when N's voice blared through his earpiece.
All right, you're in Maya's room. The master bedroom should be 2 doors down and to the left.
But be careful. We're not too sure just how many guards there are in there.
The sly Russian thief sighs to himself. This particular job reminds him of when times were simpler for the man, roaming small dinky bake shops in Seattle, where he had once bought bread with his dear mother. M felt a tear form in his eye for a brief moment. The feeling of loss still weighed on his mortal soul.
Милая мать, пусть твоя душа успокоится, зная, что я исправлю эту ошибку. Oh, sweet mother, may your soul rest easy knowing that I will right this wrong.
The new-blooded thief, in keeping close to the corners of rooms, felt like a stalking predator closing in on his dinner. Hugging the walls and scouting carefully with each corner, he had made his way to the master bedroom's door, jiggling the handle twice.
Damn, it's locked! Go figure.
Emma, not having time to waste, pulls out his silenced pistol, taking a few shots off into the handle of the door, kicking the rest in. He quieted the impact by catching the door before it slammed against the wall, walking into the visibly wealthy room. The sly Russian's eyes were drawn to the king-size bed, in which was draped in pure red silk. The bed was in one of those cheesy heart shapes that you could only see in movies. He rolled his green eyes, moving his attention to the painting hanging to the side of the 20-inch flat-screen TV.
Господи Иисусе, don't you have any modesty?
That's what I was saying!
The nimble bandit fastened his grip around the painting's frame. However, as his fingers reached around the edge of the frame, the new-blooded thief had triggered a switch, causing a safe to reveal itself to him from the other side of the room.
Guys, I think I just hit an even bigger jackpot.
Wait. What did you find? Details, M! I need details!
Long story short, I found a safe. That's usually a good sign that something important is here.
Or something valuable! Oh, get in there, man!
The 2 killers squealed in excitement, hearing a breakthrough after so many days of sitting and surveilling the house and its movements. Relief fell over both of their minds.
Look at the safe now. Looks like it needs a code. What could it be?
The sly Russian's fingers slid over the number sequence of dials, raising and lowering them, thinking about what it could be.
Have you tried 1, 2, 3, 4?
No, I haven't tried 1, 2, 3, 4. Who's dumb enough to use that password? Sometimes it's like you guys don't really use your brains. Just like those top beginnings from last week.
I don't know, you could have just tried it for fun? Sorry for trying to use the 10.
The sound of something heavy can be heard over F's radio, as the 2 killers feel the anger emanating from the new-blooded thieves' side.
You've got to be fucking kidding me! The damn code was 1, 2, 3, 4. What kind of target is this? You guys have me seen from babies now?
The now annoyed thief inspects the inside of the safe, checking for false walls or bottoms. It looks like it had been opened recently. After digging around, M couldn't find anything of value, other than a sealed document and a baggie, in which held a small handgun, a snubbed revolver. After taking a few moments to reflect on what lay before him, M had come to a shocking revelation.
Wait, this belongs to...
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Alphabet Killers. This episode starred the voice talents of Talon Senpai as the narrator, Jack the Dipper as V, Arrowhead X as X, Robert Alley as Agent Greg Miles, Ash Trash Prime as J, Ashley Hamilton as K, PJ as D, Greg Porter as F, Faith Johnson as N, Eugene Shurikov as M, and Gastra as the waiter. Infiltration was written by Eden Wetherill, Luke Edens, Affine, and CJ. Original music composed by Jessica Boudreau. Other music used in this episode was Barbie Girl by Aqua. The Alphabet Killers was created and produced by Gastra. Our director is Luke Edens. Audio was edited by Robert Alley. Thanks to the following for special effects: All Sound Effects, Sound Effects Factory, CMICU 100, and Free of Fi Music. For more episodes and projects, visit the Stained Ink Studios on YouTube. You can support this and other projects of Stained Ink Studios by visiting our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/ALPHAKK. Our fan Discord is discord.gg/JSGCC8. See you next time for episode 3 of The Alphabet Killers.